what we thought we'd do to kick off the session this year is to kind of give you a state of where CII is and a little bit about where CII is going, try to debunk some of the confusion that might be with a lot of the change that's going on within CII and some of the collaboration efforts. So I'm going to give you a little bit about how we're performing as a industry society and as an organization. Bill's going to talk about some of the collaborative efforts that we have ongoing and plan for the future. And then Stephen's going to talk about some of the safety performance and some of the other things around CII. So if you remember back in 2006, we all, as a group, decided to have the kind of the strategic planning committee think about how we should potentially reorganize CII. And the organization, and many of you have seen this chart in the past, was set up as industry sectors with kind of a matrix on some of the more traditional things that we did at CII. So now we've got the 5 industry sectors, and I'll talk about the technology addition here in the next slide. But what that allowed us to do is to focus research on specific needs of not the industry as a whole, which we will continue to do, but specific industry sectors where there may be some nuances within, say, healthcare versus oil and gas versus power, those types of things. So if you look at kind of the slate of research that's going through the industry sectors today, you'll see some of the kind of the shorter term research, which I'll talk about here in a second. But some of the longer term research, the traditional 2-year plus type research, we've got 5 different areas that we're addressing that are specific needs within those industry sectors. Impacts of regulations, the benefits of standardization, you can read the rest there. So some really good longer term traditional type research, as well as the short term, the 6-month to 1-year type research, which we're going to roll out a couple of those at the conference this year. In addition to that, we brought FIATech back into the organization. It was always part of CII. It was just run as kind of a separate entity. Today, if you look at people, processes, and technology being kind of the cornerstone of how we progress in this industry, we're bringing back that technology component so that we can better align technology with the needs of the industry. So there's both a vertical and a horizontal aspect of the technology side because of how we want to integrate that within the way that we do, basically plan and execute our projects. So there's specific teams and so on that are related to that. That was a big part of the last, year earlier in the year last year about integrating the FIATech organization back into CII. So, how does that relate to kind of the health of CII? And we kind of measure this by obviously the value which we deliver to you all, but also participation from the industry. So, today, he took a snapshot today, and there's some that are in the pipeline as we speak, but 149 members, which is, I think it's probably the highest it's ever been within CII. And you can look at the mix of, we try to keep a logical mix of owner, contractor, supplier type organizations so that we get a good cross section. So you can see that it was kind of in a decline mode for a number of years, but in the last year, now that we've gotten these industry sector organizational structure elements underway, there's a pretty substantial growth, as well as some newer type organizations which are breakthrough kind of people that are innovative and can help us in delivering our projects. So solid health, solid growth within the organization. So those industry sectors were also tasked with these short-term research efforts, where we can't wait for a 2 to 3 year type research. We want something that we can hit the ground and use today. And so there's each industry sector was tasked with developing a shorter term research effort. And if you kind of look at the steps here within the slide, where you kind of develop, get aligned, collaborate on the effort, build it to a solution, and then implement it. But do that very quickly. And that's a tough thing to do when you're used to a 2 to 3 year type of cycle, just to get the research out to you all, and then having to implement it. Now we've got that kind of compartmentalized into shorter term research, and you're going to see today and tomorrow several of those, the construction readiness assessment tool and research, and the adaptation of the PDRI for the manufacturing and life sciences group are both going to present out, which are, again, these 6-month to 1 year efforts, which I think is a fantastic step in the right direction, so we can react very quickly to your industry-specific needs. The key is then to get that implemented within the organizations, and utilization of what CII now has as a registered provider program is a methodology to do that. You've got access to people that are experts in rolling this stuff out. And it's not just training, it's mentoring, it's how do you build it into your own work practices and so on. So a very positive result to some of the change that we made within the organization. But there's still a lot of underutilized type services that CII has that we don't believe that we're all taking advantage of. One is the online training. I think it's there's a $1,000 fee or something like that for an organization to gain access. But there's a lot of content that we should be taking advantage of, right? It's the kind of the basics of a lot of the effort. It's not going to talk about how you implement it within your organization, but it will talk about, how do you do various aspects of project work. The performance assessment. Again, trying to build that back up as a quote-unquote benchmarking effort that allows you to measure how you're doing against some of your counterparts and colleagues. The utilization of the registered provider resources. Reach out to them and see how they might be able to help in implementing. If we just focused on implementing what we've already got as research, that's a huge step forward in addition to the new research. Participate in the research. I sat on my first research team 2 years ago, and it was fantastic. Absolutely, enjoyable, as well as from a business standpoint. Knowledge of what the industry looks at. From our focus was the maturity and accuracy of the feed packages. Networking, which I think is a lot of the reason you're all here, and we need to continue that. And I'll show you some metrics here in a short time about working together and the benefits of that. And then we're also working on university collaboration, trying to move some more of that education element earlier on into the university side of things, so that when we get graduates into into the business environment, that they're better prepared for what you all need as far as moving projects forward. So the value proposition, if you take a look, and I'm not going to go through a lot of the detail here, there's 3 slides that talk about cost and schedule benefits. And this one happens to deal with owners working with either non-CII contracts or owners working with CII contracts, so CII to CII, CII to not CII. There's obviously, in either aspect, cost benefits of applying the best practices to your projects from an owner standpoint. But when a CII member works with a CII owner member works with a CII contractor, the cost benefits are even much greater. So it's applying the best practices and the tools across the planning and execution elements. If we move that all the way back into some of the business benefits, and you look at, again, applying CII best practices from an owner and contractor standpoint in the business planning, and this focusing in on the cost side of things, you can see 7-8% type of a benefit. That's big money when you're dealing with the money that the owners in the room here are spending. And even more impressive is if you take that and look at schedule and the benefits that we can gain from schedule. So if you use the business analysis that we're getting our products to market faster, and the rate of returns increase and so on and so forth, both on the cost and schedule side, some real strong benefits. And if you take a look at the investment of you providing a fee, but also participating, to the investment or the return on that investment with all of the other member organizations doing the same thing, you get a huge return on that CII investment, especially when you look back at the previous slides and talk about the cost and schedule benefits. So hopefully, I'll give you a real quick overview of kind of some of the success stories that we've had up to now. There's a whole bunch of others if we went company by company. I'm going to hand it over to Bill now, and he's going to talk more about how CII is collaborating with other organizations.
Good morning, and thank you, Steve. What a great report over the past year of all the work that's been done by you, the CII staff, and academics. I'm honored to be a part of this organization that has served the industry so well over the last 35 years. I think about the visionaries and the leaders that devoted time and resources to make this institute the recognized leader in the industry, research, and best practices. I think they'd be pleased. The CII staff, academics, and numerous volunteers from member companies have done an outstanding job leading CII through this transition to ensure that we're focused and structured to meet the industry needs. I'm also pleased to share with you how CII is collaborating both and communicating both globally and domestically, and how the team's been very busy in this area. CII is collaborating globally with some of the groups you see here, both in Canada, Singapore, Norway, South Africa, Europe, Saudi Arabia, and South Korea. We're also collaborating domestically with these organizations on missions that support also these other groups such as ECC and AGC, but also working together to achieve more as we leverage our resources. In the past 10 years, the Construction Users Roundtable has co-sponsored at least 3 different research teams, and it's mentioned in 5 different areas of the CII knowledge base. Kurt has been committed to moving the industry forward through research and development. The industry prizes the leadership both CII and Kurt provide, and are regularly invited to participate in industry-wide initiatives to move the industry forward in one area such as the Careers Coalition. Advocacy for the industry is a huge opportunity, and is relatively untapped in this area. CII's Strategic Planning Committee identified the creation of a new business model as one of CII's 4 themes. Operating System 2.0 is the theory behind this new business model. CII will lead the R&D for this OS2, Operating System 2.0, using external funds. This is necessary because we don't have the resources needed during this short time frame. Prairie Dog is a commercial platform to transact business for OS2. It must generate revenues, sustain operations and maintenance needs. It is a standalone, separate from CII entity. CII and Kurt are shepherding the OS2 effort on behalf of the industry as it gets underway. So here's some facts about this collaboration. CII and Kurt have no plans to merge. OS2 Prairie Dog is a research sponsor for CII. It'll offer greater opportunities to leverage your dues and actually could double research funding. CII's director is prohibited by UT from serving as an officer of Prairie Dog or on the board of managers. OS2 is not doing away with the CII best practices. OS2 is a net positive for CII, and we see a lot of opportunity for it to bring, and it has brought new members, creating energy, and providing research funding, and helping to create a healthy projects industry. So we also collaborate to communicate. Social media is a strong platform for CII to continue achieve its objective to be a thought leader for the industry. CII social media research outreach is increasing. In the past year, in the past 6 months, we've generated over 3 times the number of impressions than we have in the past. And somebody else will have to tell you what the impressions are. I think it's, so anyway, it's a way to get our word out. 27% of the people today use internet time is spent on social networking. The undeniable truth is social media is a real platform for networking, growth, and engagement for the industry. CII is developing this type of content that people want to share. We have great material, we have great information, and we encourage you to like, follow, and share the CII posts. We also collaborate with media. We do not have a dedicated advertising budget, so when we have an opportunity to feature CII in the media, there are huge positive impacts with that. This year alone, CII has been featured almost a dozen times in these different outlets. We're very grateful for these opportunities and the valuable content we have to share and our subject matter experts to get the attention of the industry and the mainstream press. For years, this group has been one of the industry's best kept secrets. I want the industry to, if we want the industry to truly improve, we need to let people know about the research we do and the best practice we have to offer. We'll continue to participate in the right venues, the right media opportunities at the right time. I'm excited about these collaboration and communication opportunities. Working together with others in the industry, we can definitely improve capital efficiency and achieve our vision of the construction industry that builds a predictable value for society and our stakeholders. Now, Stephen's going to share how we've been performing in the area of safety, and so I'll turn it over to Stephen now.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Steve. Good morning. Let me add my welcome. Welcome to the 35th year of CII and the Annual Conference this year. We're really super glad that you all are here. We've got a great conference ahead. As I get started, I just want a quick reminder that, as Keaton mentioned, use the mobile app to ask questions. Bill and Steve have already gone through a lot of different material, and you may have questions for that. The reason why we're doing the presentation this morning is because of the feedback that we've gotten from our members, our board members, and our volunteers across CII. So whether it's changes we've made internally to CII and how the committees are operating, how CII is performing, that Steve went over, or whether it's related to the extended collaboration opportunities that we've been proceeding with Construction Users Roundtable and other partners that are important to us both domestically and globally. Make sure that you put those questions in the mobile app, because we'll have probably 7 to 10 minutes at the end of my remarks to cover those questions in a live way, and we'll bring Keaton back up to moderate and facilitate that discussion. So we always start at the annual conference with our annual safety survey, and this year is no different. I think the reason why we do that is because safety is probably one of the greatest legacies of CII's 35 years. When CII began in 1983, the first area that it researched was in safety, and shortly thereafter, productivity. Those two themes remain with us. They've been with us for 35 years, and I see no reason why they wouldn't continue. The good news is the industry and CII, through the zero accident techniques, have made just tremendous strides in the area of safety. Importantly, this year was the first year that we used the annual safety survey and collaborated more broadly with it. We launched a new safety portal in collaboration with Kurt. What that allowed us to do is have even more companies participate and report their safety results, their injuries, their dark cases, even the fatalities. The good news is that the trend continues to move downward. I'll show you the specific graphs here in a second. But I think we really recognize that safety is a real value, not just to CII, but to the entire industry. And since we had one of the largest safety surveys in the industry, we wanted to leverage that more broadly. We wanted to make that available really to everybody, not just the CII membership, not just the CURT membership, even beyond that. So we had an all-time high number of organizations that have participated this year. I should also mention that the online training that was mentioned earlier, that a lot of people participate in for a slight additional fee. One part of that training is free and available to the entire world off of our website, and that's the online training concerning safety. The Executive Committee and CII feel very strongly that information, those training modules, need to be made available to the entire world, and so we've done that within the last couple of years. So this is the 2017 Annual Safety Survey, but before I get to that, I want to just talk about safety from something that's very personal to me. The pictures that you see on the screen are pictures of my wife's car. It's a 2017 Cadillac sedan. In February, a driver of a truck ran a red light, and my wife and daughter hit the side of the truck head on at almost 60 miles an hour. I'll say by the grace of God and some really truly amazing engineering that went into this vehicle, the car saved their lives. The picture on the right, just behind the car, is an Austin firefighter. He's talking to my wife and daughter, and what he told them was that literally he's seen this wreck 100 times. He said this is the first case where he saw the people get out of the car. So I'll just tell you, from a very personal perspective, my family and I have a very deep appreciation for safety, especially for General Motors and our other members' commitment to safety. It shows top to bottom. Very appreciative for the people who designed this car, who built it in the factory, the people who designed and built the factory. All of this culminated in a result that probably wouldn't have been possible even 10 years ago. So all I can say, and Keaton's not out here, but I would just say to Keaton, thank you very much for designing such a great car and building it in such a great factory. And Keaton, wherever you are, pass along my thanks to your colleagues at GM as well. So the safety survey for this year, for the CII members, we collected almost 3 billion work hours from a total of 66 member companies. In total, there were 83 companies overall who participated in the safety survey. The additional from 66 to 83 represents mostly CURT members who were also involved in the safety survey. The numbers that I'm showing are just reflective of the CII member totals. So we had about 31 owners and 35 contractors. Well, you can see it, the owners and the service providers in the graph, so a few more service providers than owners. In the last survey in 2016, we had 31 owners and 38 contractors. So the number of owners is slightly lower for calendar year 2017 than before. That said, we increased the number of work hours that were reported by owners by about 15%, slightly lower on the contractors by about 4%, but still with 3 billion work hours, quite a large number of work hours were reported. The total recordable incident rate for 2017 is now at 0.22. That is the lowest that it's ever been for the CI graph. I think you all deserve a round of applause for continuing to lower that rate. We're not at zero, but I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. So at 0.22, this is actually 15% lower than what happened for the CII membership in calendar year 2016. As normal, the OSHA reporting in the green or in the blue line won't become available until October when the government reports those numbers. This is the days away restricted and transfer cases. The number is 0.09, and it's exactly the same as 2016. So again, we've matched essentially a historic low for the CII membership in terms of the number. Again, we're proceeding in the right direction. We still have a little ways to go to get to zero, but these are also incredibly good results. Concerning fatalities, the fatality rate is 28% lower than it was in 2016, not quite a historic low. As you saw in 2013, calendar year 2013 was 1.11, currently 1.25. And that's on the basis, working almost 3 billion work hours, there were a total of 18 fatalities. And this next chart shows the areas that those 18 fatalities occurred in. You can see that almost half of them were contact with objects. So this makes me remember back, I would say almost 10 years ago, CII had a research study that was talking about proximity warning systems using technology to show when workers were about to come in contact with construction equipment. I think these are kinds of innovations that probably maybe our safety community of business advancement could take a look at that again and see if we couldn't move some of those techniques or technologies forward to maybe prevent that particular area. Of course, this is the worst part of the safety is when somebody loses their life on a job site. 18 is 18 too many. So again, we've got to just keep working to reduce these causes and of course make the industry incredibly safer. So the new safety benchmarking portal that I mentioned before, we've done this in collaboration with Kurt. I think, as we got to 83 companies this year, we'll look to exceed 100 next year and keep moving forward. I think the volume of data that we get in this is really yielding a lot of important information that we can use to drive important changes to safety accident practice and prevention. And the more data that we get, the more analysis we can do and move those things forward even faster. A couple of housekeeping items just for me. This year is also the first year that we've shown we have a showcase. Normally, if you were with us in San Antonio in March, we called that the Technology Showcase, and we had a number of booths. We typically haven't done that in the past at CII sorry, this is out of the corner of my eye. It's a little distracting. We typically haven't had the showcase at the annual conference, but we do this year. We're incredibly grateful for the companies that are participating, so I would be remiss if I didn't remind you to take a look through and visit with the people in the booths. In particular, there are 2 booths there that comprise our what we call the academic showcase. In the past, we had a CII poster session, and we would showcase or highlight research that wasn't necessarily funded by CII, but it was incredibly important for the industry. This year, we're highlighting 2 different research topics, and they're in booths that are being staffed by students from Virginia Tech and Texas A&M. And you see the titles up here, and so when you have a chance, make sure to go by those booths and talk to the students who've done some really cutting-edge research. I think you'll enjoy that. And then the last slide, as we move on to the rest of the conference, and the reason why we picked this title of Imagine, it's imagine the value that CII has already accomplished in 35 years, but imagine what else we can do going forward. I think safety is a great foray into that discussion, because just look at the progression of what CII and you all in the industry and other industry groups have been able to accomplish really over 3 decades. Moving recordable incident rates from the area of 14 and 15 down to 0.22. It's absolutely an amazing journey. And the question I want to ask you is, imagine what else we could improve to that level. What if we had that same focus and that same drive around other things like productivity or production, or even really moving forward on the return on investment or the return on capital employed? I think what we designed the conference around this year was really moving in that direction, is creating that space for you to imagine what's possible, not just through some really great research that CII and you all have done through our research teams, and you'll see that this leading edge research in productivity and supply chain and integrated project delivery and workforce development, truly great things, but also 5 keynote speakers that talk about different aspects of this to help you imagine what can even be possible going forward. So we've designed CII in a way that we can help you move forward with your business objectives, both in the short term and long term. We know you have things that you need today, news you can use today to improve your projects, but we also have to be working and mindful of positioning the industry for the future, and I think that's what we're doing exactly here in the conference. So really glad that you're all here, and I welcome you to, along with all of me and other people, I don't speak on behalf of Bill and Steve, is just really use this day and tomorrow to really imagine what could be possible. And I think together we'll really improve the industry. So with that, maybe Keaton will come back and we can take a few questions.
Yes, thank you guys all very much. Appreciate the talk. And we are doing a great job using the app because I've got multiple questions. So I'm glad everyone is participating. And the first one is for Dr. Stephen Mulva. What is the single biggest challenge to the expansion and sustainability of CII?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's really the volunteer effort. Is what we see is the people are incredibly busy, and although we have an all-time high number of companies, the ability for people to get away and necessarily participate on research teams and on our committees gets a bit harder every year. I think that's why Steve was stressing, that he recently served on a research team and got a lot out of it. I think that's what we hear across the board, but I think just the time pressure is one of the things that is difficult to deal with. It's also one of the reasons why we have the sector committees and a focus to grow CII and the number of members. As we grow the number of members, we get more volunteers that way. So to the extent you all can free up your time or colleagues in your company's time to participate in CII, I think that's going to make a huge difference for you and for your companies.
Keaton, I'd just like to add to that. I think it's implementation as well. You take the body of research and tools, practices, techniques, you name it, and we've got to get those embedded into the way that we do business and not continually take shortcuts to say, well, I just don't have enough time to do this practice or this tool or so on, and get away from the check the box kind of an approach to things, but embedded in the way that you as a project leader need to do a project. Not that it's forced on you, but you got to buy into the fact that a lot of this research has value, and that if we implement it, that predictability starts to get stronger as far as our costs and schedules. We become safer. So a lot of things kind of kick in after that. But I think it's a big part of its implementation.
Okay. A lot of energy around OS2 and what we're doing in terms of that. So there's multiple questions. I'm going to just summarize. And the question really becomes, when will CII start working on OS2 research, and can CII members be a part of this research? So how do you get engaged in that effort working on OS2? A lot of questions around that.
So CII, the Strategic Planning Committee in January came out with 4 research themes, and Bill touched on them. One of them is invent or work on new business model, and that's really where OS2 is focused. Regardless whether companies choose to invest in that effort or not, all member companies will be able to be involved in the research. The reason why we were looking for additional investment is just if we did this through the member dues, it would probably take 12 or 15 years to bring this about, and the industry needs it today. So to shorten that cycle down to about 3 years, 2 or 3 years, we were needing to get some external research funding. But we also have to collaborate broadly with the industry because we want this to be a solution for the entire industry. And we also have a number of research teams that will need staffing. Again, to leverage the number of volunteers needed, we need other industry groups like HURT, like Lean Construction Institute, like others that are partnering with us on that. So absolutely everybody can be involved in that effort. I would tell you that even if the funding situation changes a little bit, the fact that one of the 4 CI themes is new business model will mean that we will continue to move that forward regardless of what's going on with OS2. The issue of also why the external funding is needed is because there's a commercial implementation of a commercial platform, and that's not really the mission of CII. And to maintain a platform and keep it relevant and up to date and connected with other software and systems, it requires some money for that maintenance function. And that's why Bill said it's a completely separate entity. I don't know, Bill, if you wanted to add anything else about it.
No, I think that's it. But I think it's been worked, you didn't mention January, but I think it's been in the process about how do we actually make this step function change, and it's needed. So I think it's been in the works. It is a separate entity. And in the delivery model and this platform is the question, and that's what CI doesn't have the resources, I guess, to deliver. So there'll be opportunities for research. CI members can participate in that, and then we'll gain information from that effort.
I might step on some of the other questions you have there, but all the introduction to OS2, where we, and probably led by Stephen, we're challenging some of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. The work process, project controls, things like that. OS2 and CII are not saying that any of that goes away. All we're saying is, should we reevaluate whether that's the best way to execute projects in today's environment? So, when you look at what CII's research is, that's going to continue as I was explaining in the beginning. And then OS2 might add additional research about maybe going back and looking at some of the best practices and seeing if they're still best practices. But the best practices still stay in place until we've defined as a industry whether they're not a best practice anymore and there's something better. So, I hope it wasn't misinterpreted that we're going to throw everything away and start over again with OS2. That by far that is not the intent of the OS2 effort.
Excellent. Thank you. I think we're right out of time, and I know we want to get moving with the next presentation. So, Steve, Bill, Stephen, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.